Hey boys and girls, I'm going to go ahead and show you where to find your assignment for 05.03 in math. We'll go over a couple problems and I'll kind of talk you through this whole worksheet. This is a harder assignment, so I'm going to talk you through a lot of this. We're going to start by going into our math course. We are looking at Module 5 and we're looking at Lesson 05.03, Modeling Division. You're going to want to make sure you go through this lesson very slowly and very carefully, looking at all of the examples. First page shows you what you're going to learn, and then right away in the second page you've got some examples. You've got a review on area models when you're multiplying. That's going to be a great review because we're going to be using area models to divide. And then it gets right into your first example, 3,392 divided by 16. These are the steps that we're going to follow when we are doing our division of using an area model. So it says, let's use an area model to solve 3,392 divided by 16. And that's exactly what you're going to be doing on your assignment, is doing division problems using an area model. So it's going to be important that you go through these steps right here. Follow these steps, write them down. Do these practice problems out, these examples. Do them out with Buzz, write them down. Practice, 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 right? And then if you go to page 3, there are even more examples. Example 1. Example 2. There's even some practice problems here that you can talk about and how you're using that area model to solve division. And really what you're doing is you're following these steps. These are the steps that you're following to solve these division problems using the area model. Lots of examples in this lesson. Lots and lots of examples. So make sure you go through this Buzz lesson carefully, reading everything, following all the examples, write out the examples with Buzz, and that will really help you. When you get to the last page of the lesson, you're going to click on Modeling Division, which is your worksheet. It is 3 questions, but number 2 has a part A and a part B, and number 3 has a part A and a part B. Now, I'm not going to do this whole worksheet for you. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to model some. I'm going to talk you through some. So make sure you're paying attention as we go through, as I go through with this video. Okay, so I am going to model the first one for you. I'm going to use an area model to solve these division problems, or this first division problem. Like I said, I'm just going to do number 1. So make sure that you have your notebook out, or actually have this assignment out, print it out, and do this with me. Write it out with me. And then you're going to use what I do for number 1 to help you with number 2. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and screenshot number 1. Make this bigger for us. Okay. So in the lesson, you're going to learn, as you go through the lesson, you're going to learn the steps that you need in order to solve a division problem using an area model. And I'm going to go through these steps with you in the video as well. But again, you're going to want to make sure you go through the lesson very carefully and take notes so that you are prepared to complete this assignment. So when you are using an area model to solve a division problem, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to draw a rectangle. So I'm going to work over here. And some of you might find that using a separate piece of paper to do your work is easier, because you'll see once we do number 1, I'm going to take up quite a bit of room. So you might want to pause for a second, pause the video, get some scratch paper in your notebook, and use the scratch paper to show your work. When you submit, you'll need to make sure that you submit the worksheet and your page where you've shown your work. And make sure you've labeled it number 1, and so that I know that that problem that you're working out goes with number 1. I would suggest using a separate piece of paper to show your work, because like I said, when we do number 1 together, you're going to see how much space I take up. And there's not enough room on your sheet for number 1. So take a moment, pause the video, go get some scratch paper. All right, so now that you have scratch paper, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our area model. In order to do that, we're going to start by drawing a rectangle. Now I'm obviously writing a lot bigger than you probably need to, but I'm drawing a rectangle and I'm going to put my divisor. Now my divisor is the number that I'm dividing by. I'm dividing by 17. So I'm going to put the divisor at the top. And in most cases, your divisor is going to be the smaller number. So there's my divisor, the number I'm dividing by. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this problem out, 7,599 divided by 17. I'm going to write it out on the side. So I'm going to write it out like this, 7,599 divided by 17. Okay, so I'm going to write it out so it's almost looking like it's long division. But we're going to do most of our work here in our rectangle. So there's step 1, drawing a rectangle, setting up the problem by drawing a rectangle, putting the divisor at the top, and setting up our problem on the right. Next, what we need to start doing is we need to look at this divisor, which is 17, and we need to multiply 17 by a factor or another number that will get us close to 7,599. So I need to start thinking to myself, what can I multiply 17 by to get me close to 7,599? Now, I honestly don't know that off the top of my head. But what I do know is that 17 times 2, I know 17 times 2 is 34 because 17 plus 17 is 34. So I know 17 times 2 is 34. So if I did 17 times 2 is 34, what happens if I did 17 times 20? Well, if 17 times 2 is 34, then 17 times 20 is 340. Well, that still doesn't get me very close. What if I did 17 times 200? If I know 17 times 2 is 34, and 17 times 20 is 340, then 17 times 200 would be 3,400. So that's just some simple mental math when you're multiplying with numbers that end in 0. So again, I know 17 times 2 is 34, which means 17 times 20 is 340, which means 17 times 200 is 3,400. That gets me pretty close. 3,400 is pretty close to 7,599. I like that number. I'm going to use this 3,400. So what I'm going to do is now that I've gotten pretty close to 7,599 by multiplying 17 times 200, I'm going to take this 3,400 and I'm going to write it underneath my 7,599. Okay, so I just took what I multiplied by, or what I got when I multiplied, and put it underneath the dividend, which is 7,599. Now I subtract. We multiplied and now I wrote the number. Now I subtract. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 0 is 9. 5 minus 4 is 1. 7 minus 3 is 4. So I have 4,199. Okay, now I'm going to repeat what I just did. I'm going to go back to my area model, my rectangle, and I'm going to repeat these steps. I need to see what number can I multiply by 17 to get close to 4,199. Well, in the step before, we got 3,400. That's pretty close to 4,199. So I'm going to use 200 again. Why not? Why not use the same number again if it gets us close? So I know 17 times, and what we're doing here is we're multiplying. So that, if you put that little X there, that can help you remember we're multiplying to get these numbers. I know 17 times 200 is 3,400. We just solved that one. But we're using that number again because 3,400 is very close to 4,199. So I'm going to, again, subtract 3,400 400, and I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 0 is 9. I can't do 1 minus 4, so I'm going to borrow from this 4. The 4 changes to a 3. I bring 10 over. 10 plus 1 is 11. So now I've got 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. Sorry about that. I had to think for a second. And then 3 minus 3 is 0. So now I'm left with 799. And I'm going to repeat. I'm going to go back to my area model or my rectangle, and I'm going to figure out, okay, 17 times what will get me close to 799? Now, I can't use 200 again because 17 times 200 is 3,400, and that's too big for 799. It's too high, so we can't use that. So I need to start thinking, okay, well, how can I get close to here? Well, this is where you start thinking, okay, well, 17 times what can get me close? So I know that 17 times 2 is 34. 17 times 20 was 340. I can use that factor. Let's use that factor. 17 times 20 is 340. And that's pretty close to 799. So let's use that. 340. And I subtract. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So now I'm at 459. Okay, so then I'm going to repeat. I know that 17 times 20 was 340. Well, I could use that again because we're trying to go to 459. So I'm going to repeat. 17 times 20 is 340. I'm going to write that over here. I'm starting to run out of room, guys, so I'm going to start writing a little bit smaller. And then I've got 9. 5 minus 4 is 1. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So now I'm at 119. Let's see if I can hide this. There we go. That gives me a little bit more room. All right, so now I go back and repeat. Now, I can't do 17 times 20 again because 17 times 20 is 340, and 340 is too big for 119. So this is where you might have to start doing some math on the side here. Let's go down to 17 times 10. Well, 17 times 10 would be 170, and that's still too big. So let's try 17 times 5. And this is where you might have to do a little math on the side here. I don't know 17 times 5 off the top of my head. 7 times 5 is 35. So I put my 5 down, carry my 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So 17 times 5 is 85. That gets us pretty close to 119. So I'm going to do 5. And that gives me 85. So I'm going to take my 85. Again, I'm sorry I have to write small. So that just says 85. I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. And 11 minus 8 is 3. So now I'm at 34. Ooh, 34, 34. That looks familiar. Look at 3,400, 3,400, 34, 34. 340, 34. So I know 17 times 2 is 34. So I'm going to go back over to my area model. I'm going to write down my 2, and I put my answer inside the box, which is 34. I put my 34 here, and I subtract, and guess what? I'm at 0, which means I have my answer. I'm sorry, again, it's really small here, but 34 minus 34 is 0, so now I've got my final answer. Now the next step, once you're at 0 from doing all the division, the next step is to go back to your area model, and we are going to look at the numbers on the outside right here. And the next step is to add them up. So it's important that you line up your numbers. Notice how I line them up. So my 1s are on top of my 1s, my 10s are on top of my 10s, and my 100s are on top of my 100s. So I can go down. 5 plus 2 is 7. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. And there's our answer, 447. So 7,599 divided by 17 is 447. And we can check our work. And on Buzz, it even shows you how to solve and check. To check your work, you simply take your quotient, which is your answer. So we're going to take 447 and we multiply it by our divisor. Our divisor here was 17. When we multiply these two numbers, we should get 7,599. And if we do, then we got the right answer. So all we're doing is we're taking our quotient, which is our answer to the division problem, 447, and we're multiplying it by our divisor, which is 17, and we should get 7,599. Let's check. 7 times 7 is 49, so I put my 9 down. I carry my 4. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 4 is 32, so I put my 2 down. I carry my 3. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3 is 31. Drop my turtle egg or put my 0. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. And then I add. I get 9, 9, 5, 7. 9 plus 0 is 9. 2 plus 7 is 9. 1 plus 4 is 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7,599, right? Is that the same as our dividend? If it is, then we got the right answer. And in this case, it is. So our answer that we got for our division, 447, is correct. So 7,599 divided by 17 is 447. There's a lot of steps to these problems, boys and girls. And that's why it's going to be important that you go through the Buzz lesson very carefully and that you follow each of these steps. Okay, so that's number 1. I'm going to close out. And let's look at number 2. Now, number two, I'm not going to go through all that again with you. You've got the model, you've got the examples on Buzz. You're going to do the same exact thing for number 2. You're going to solve using the area model. And again, if you notice there's not a lot of room here, you might want to use a piece of paper so that you have more room. You're going to solve this 7,436 divided by 13 using the area model. And then for part B, you're going to explain your steps. Now, there's only 3 lines here, so you don't have to explain your steps in great detail, but what you do need to use are what are the main steps in using the area model. Let me show you where you could find this answer. I'm going to go back to Buzz, and I'm going to go to one of the examples. So on page 3, I know there is example. Example 1 here on page 3. Look at these pink boxes. Set up, multiply and subtract, repeat, add, solve, and check. There are your steps right there. Set up the problem. Multiply and subtract. Multiply and subtract. You repeat that process of multiplying and subtracting. Then you add. And when you add, you've got your answer, and then you solve and check your answer. You can use these pink boxes to help you with number 2, part B. Put these steps into complete sentences. Like I said, you don't have to go in extreme detail and provide all of this information. You don't have to do that. It can be very simple where you're just using these pink boxes. These are the steps. Step 1, set up your problem. Step 2, multiply and subtract. Step 3, continue to multiply and subtract until you get to your answer and you have a 0 at the end. Add up all your numbers on the edge of or on the side of your area model. Solve and check to make sure that you've got the right answer. You can use these pink boxes, like I said, to do number 2, part B, where you're explaining the steps. All right, and then number 3. So I've just walked you through number 1. I did number 1 for you. Number 2, you're going to use my model that I did in number 1 to do number 2. Number 2B, I just showed you where to find that answer, those pink boxes that have the steps. Number 3A, Robert says he needs 250 plastic sleeves for his baseball card collection. He has 3,084 baseball cards. Each sleeve holds 12 cards. Do you agree with Robert? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to solve this problem for you, but I'm going to set it up for you. This is a word problem and it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes word problems can be a little difficult. So what the first thing, in order to do number 3, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to set up your problem. So you're going to make your area model, your rectangle. You're going to put your divisor at the top, which is 12 in this case. And then you're going to set up your problem. For this problem, you're doing 3,084 divided by 12. Okay, and then I'm going to let you solve. Okay, now to figure out, to answer this question right here, do you agree with Robert? When you are done solving this problem and you add up all these numbers on the left here, you need to get 250. I'm sorry, you don't have to get 250, but if you get 250, then yes, you would agree. Because Robert is saying that he needs 250 plastic sleeves. So if you add and you get 250, then yes, you would agree with Robert. Because when you did the math, he was correct. He does need 250 sleeves for his baseball cards. If you don't get 250, then Robert is wrong. And what you'll do then is you'll explain why you agree or why you don't agree. Okay, so for number 3, you're going to solve 3,084 divided by 12 using the area model. Just like I showed you, just like the steps are on Buzz. When you do your addition, after you've got all your factors here on the left, you're going to add them all up. If you get 250, then Robert is correct. He's correct, and you would say, yes, you agree with him, and you would explain why. If you don't get 250, then Robert was not correct, and that you would need to explain why he's not correct, why you would disagree with him. Okay, so this one's a little bit trickier just because it's a word problem, but really what you're simply just solving the problem and then looking at the answer and determining if Robert is right or wrong. And if he's right, why is he right? Why do you agree with him? If he's wrong, why is he wrong? Why do you not agree with him? Okay, so that's what you're doing for number 3. I know this is a lot of steps. I know this is a lot. Division is a difficult concept, but I'm telling you, with this video and with the things that are on Buzz, it will help you get this accomplished. I taught this last year. It was my first time teaching area models of division, and I had to go back and look before I did my video right now to look on how to do the area models. But I'm telling you, the Buzz lessons walk you through step by step. And this video will walk you step by step. Use the video, use the Buzz the lessons to help you complete your assignments. When you're done, you'll go to the next activity tab. You'll have a blue plus button where you attach your work. Let me know if you need any help.